नमस्कार, आप सभी का स्वागत है। कर्मयोगी। कौन है कर्मयोगी? क्या है कर्मयोगी? शांत चित्त हो खड़ा, विनम्रता से हो अड़ा, डटकर करे जो कर्म को, फलों से पर विरक्त हो। सिद्धि में असिद्धि में समत्व भाव जो रखे, यज्ञ जो भीतर करे आहुति दे अहम की जो, प्रसाद पा चरित्र में सुरासा बाटता चले। वही तो कर्मयोगी है, परमात्मा का जोगी है। वही तो कर्मयोगी है, परमात्मा का जोगी है। आज 1 मार्च 2025 फागुन मासे शुक्ल पक्षे द्वितीया तिथि भाद्रपद नक्षत्र के इस अद्भुत संयोग दिवस में भारतीय सिविल लेखा दिवस पर सभागार में उपस्थित समस्त विद्वजन मेरा अभिनंदन स्वीकार करें।
Today, the 1st of March 2025 marks 49 years since the Indian Civil Accounts Service came into being, consequent to the departmentalization of Union accounts in 1976. Over the past 49 years, the service has grown in its stature, professionalism, and effectiveness. Today, we have gathered here not only to celebrate this milestone, but also to reflect over these past 49 years of unwavering commitment, steadfast dedication, and phenomenal growth. Today is a day for celebration, an opportunity for reflection, and an occasion for seeking inspiration to envision the path ahead. And it is thus a privilege for us that the event is being presided over by the Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, who is the beacon and guiding light for our service. Words fall short to express our happiness and good fortune of having your august presence here, Madam. I request Ms. Sakshi Mishra, ICAS Officer Trainee of the 2023 batch, to please formally welcome our Chief Guest, Honorable Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman. We are also extremely grateful for the presence of Secretary Expenditure, Dr. Manoj Govil, whose guidance and directions are at the core of the service's being. Over the past months, our service has benefited exponentially, not only from Sir's rich experience, but also his trainings and expertise in the areas of computer science, economics, and public policy. I request Sri Aman Ranjan, ICAS Officer Trainee of the 2023 batch, to please felicitate Sir. We now welcome the Controller General of Accounts, Sri S.S. Dubey, whose leadership and passion for the service enthuses and motivates us all. It is under Sir's dynamic leadership that the service has flourished leaps and bounds. I request Sri Karan More, ICAS Officer Trainee of the 2023 batch, to please welcome Sir.
आप सभी का धन्यवाद। ये भारतीय संस्कृति के संस्कार हैं जो प्रत्येक शुभ कार्य का आरंभ हम माँ वीणा पाणी की आराधना से करते हैं। उनका आवाहन करने दीप प्रज्वलन विधि के लिए मैं अनुरोध करती हूँ माननीय वित्त मंत्री मैडम निर्मला सीतारमन एवं मंच पर आसीन सभी महानुभावों से कि वे दीप की ओर अग्रसर हों।
सर्वे सन्तु निरामया। कशिद दुख भाग भवेत। वरदे वीणावादिनी वरदे, वरदे वीणावादिनी वरदे, प्रिय स्वतंत्र रव अमृत मंत्र नव, प्रिय स्वतंत्र रव अमृत मंत्र नव, भारत में भर दे, भर दे, भारत में भर दे, भर दे, भर दे वीणावादिनी वरदे, वरदे वीणावादिनी वरदे, काट अंगूर के बंधन स्तर, महाजननी ज्योतिर्मय निर्झर, काट अंगूर के बंधन स्तर, महाजननी ज्योतिर्मय निर्झर, कलुष भेद तम हर प्रकाश भर, कलुष भेद तम हर प्रकाश भर, जगमग जग कर दे, कर दे, जगमग जग कर दे, कर दे, वरदे वीणावादिनी वरदे, वरदे वीणावादिनी वरदे, नवगति नवलय ताल छंद नव, नवल कंठ नव, जलद मंदरव, नवगति नवलय ताल छंद नव, नवल कंठ नव, जलद मंदरव, नव नभ के नव विहग वृंद को, नव नभ के नव विहग वृंद को, नव पर नव स्वर दे, वर दे, नव पर नव स्वर दे, वर दे, वरदे वीणावादिनी वरदे, वरदे वीणावादिनी वरदे, वरदे वीणावादिनी वरदे, वरदे वीणावादिनी वरदे, वरदे वीणावादिनी
Where there is light, there is no darkness. Let knowledge and virtue shine in all our hearts. I thank all our distinguished guests for such a propitious start to the event. I now take this opportunity to invite on the dais someone whose leadership has inspired our service to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more. His passionate spearheading of PFMS and related initiatives need no introduction. I request the Controller General of Accounts, Shri S.S. Dubey, to please deliver the welcome address.
Namaskar, good morning. Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, respected Secretary Expenditure, Dr. Manoj Goel, Secretaries to Government of India, financial advisors, former CGAs, retired ICS officers, friends from banking sector and media, all officers and staff of Indian Civil Account Service and Organization, and all other distinguished guests and invitees. On indication of 49th Civil Accounts Day, on behalf of the entire Civil Accounts Organization, I extend a very warm welcome to you all. 49th Civil Accounts Day के अवसर पर माननीय वित्त मंत्री महोदया का हम हृदय से स्वागत करते हैं। माननीय वित्त मंत्री महोदया, आपकी अत्यंत गरिमामय उपस्थिति से आज के इस कार्यक्रम का गौरव भी बढ़ा है और हम सबका उत्साह भी। आपकी कर्मठता, प्रखरता तथा विद्वता हम सब के लिए प्रेरणा है। मैं डॉक्टर मनोज गोविल, सेक्रेटरी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ एक्सपेंडिचर, जो हमारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए एक मेंटर और गाइड भी हैं, उनका भी तहे दिल से स्वागत करता हूं। At the outset, I would like to thank profusely Honorable Finance Minister and express our sincere gratitude for her continued support and in particular for sanctioning 76 permanent posts for public financial management system and the ICS cadre, which is the largest increase in the cadre's strength of her service since its formation in 1976. Respected Madam, with this augmentation, I would like to assure you that we have delivered in the past and will be working tirelessly with your highest level of commitment to meet your expectations and fulfill the priorities set by the government. ICS has never lagged behind in constantly trying to usher in reforms and always raise the bar by leveraging technology, with PFMS being one of the finest examples. The Civil Accounts Organization is driven by the motto of accounting as an aid to management. The concept of maintenance of accounts has changed from mere preparation of financial and accounting statements to management information system for a more informed decision making. We find inspiration in Kautilya's Arthashastra, which says, Koshaha Purvaha Sarvarambha, which means any kind of development is possible if treasury function is managed properly. As we all know, public financial management system has been designed, developed, and implemented by the Office of Controller of Accounts under the active supervision and guidance of Department of Expenditure, Ministry of Finance. The year 14-15 marked as a watershed year for the transformation of PFMS into a new avatar, when a landmark decision was taken by the government to integrate all the functions of Civil Accounts Organization onto the platform of PFMS, and another very important decision to make all the DBT payments under all the schemes mandatory on the PFMS. Since then, PFMS has revolutionized the fund disbursement, cash flow management through just-in-time releases, through its various modules, TSA, CNA, SNA, etc. The recent innovative reform of SNA Spush for centrally sponsored schemes has been implemented through a triangular, seamless integration of PFMS with eKuber of RBI and State FMS. Respected Madam, it fills me with immense pride to inform that the evolution, design, and development of PFMS has been brought about by a highly competent and committed, our own in-house human resource team of PFMS division of CGA, supported by NIC being our technology partner. And this we all could do in a very cost-effective manner, Madam, with an annual establishment cost of PFMS, including hardware, software development of less than 200 crores per year, while we manage financial transactions of more than 40 lakh crores. Yes, indeed. If one looks at these numbers of PFMS, 40 lakh agencies onboarded, 183 crore payees, 283 crore transactions in a year, with peak transactions of more than 8 crores handled on a single day. These are just not the numbers, but reflect the robust design and capability of PFMS, backed up with the silent but gigantic efforts of PFMS team, which ensures that transactions of this scale are processed seamlessly and smoothly. This is not an ordinary feat by any standards, for which all of us present here are collectively proud of. As we all know, PFMS being the core IT platform and the digital infrastructure has also facilitated and enabled direct benefit transfers in over 1,200 schemes. Various inbuilt technical features of PFMS, like validation of beneficiaries, deduplication, and Aadhaar-based payments, have all led to removal of duplicate, fake, or inactive beneficiaries, resulting in substantial savings for the government. Further, in order to address the queries or grievances from various stakeholders, including beneficiaries being part of PFMS ecosystem, we have put in place a specialized customer relationship management system wherein tickets now are issued, tracked, and resolved in a time-bound manner for ensuring user-friendly approach of PFMS with a human face. Having said that, it's only in difficult times that the true strength of any organization and the reliability of the system is tested. The widespread IT interface of PFMS came as a huge advantage during COVID times when the government offices were closed, but our POs and staff sitting at home were digitally able to process the bills and release the payments of more than 12 lakh crores, which included DBD payments during the worst period of COVID from April 20 to December 20. As part of ongoing efforts, PFMS has recently developed the functionality of electronic utilization certificate for online submission of UCs by the granting institutions to ensure ease of financial compliance. Further, the e-asset module of PFMS Sampatti has been developed to enable digital recording, tracking, and management of capital, physical assets created in all the civil ministries and departments, also mandated under the FRBM Act. PFMS, no doubt, has emerged as a robust and reliable system for ensuring safe and secure payments. Respected Madam, the payment efficiency has been very high on our agenda. For this, an oversight and monitoring cell was established by Office of CGA. I am happy to inform that with these collaborative efforts of all our field accounting formations, more than 97% of bills submitted to the payment account offices are now cleared within 5 working days, which is a stipulated duration and a target we had set for ourselves. Further, consequent to the announcement made in the budget speech in February 22, the end-to-end digitization of e-bill system has also now been implemented in all the 500 POs, which was also one of the agendas of 100 Days Action Plan. We are committed to the mission Karma Yogi initiative, the government, to build a responsive, competent, and future-ready civil services. Our Central Training Institute, INGAF, has been imparting trainings to around 10,000 officers and staff in their domain functional and contemporary areas of data science, AI, and cyber security. INGAF has developed 10 online courses on budget and accounting subjects on iGot platform, taking the tally to total 15 courses. All these courses have drawn tremendous response, and more than 150,000 learners from various government departments have already enrolled. One more course on PFMS is ready for rollout for publishing on iGot portal. It's also a matter of immense satisfaction that our training institute, INGAF, has been accredited with a grading of Ati Uttam by the Capacity Building Commission. Our organization is also performing a very important role of authorization of pension for payments, accounting, and maintaining a database through Central Pension Accounting Office, servicing more than 12 lakh pensioners and family pensioners. It has recently developed a Dirghayu Pensioners app, which empowers pensioners with their pension-related information. An escalation matrix and a monitoring dashboard on a real-time basis has been put in place to ensure timely resolution of pensioners' grievances and also for monitoring timely receipt of pension cases for timely issue of pension payment orders for retiring employees. On this auspicious occasion of 49 Civil Account Day, I compliment all my service colleagues for their relentless support to the organization in carrying out all the reforms successfully. As principal CCAs, and CAs, you all have been successfully fulfilling responsibility as nodal officers of PFMS in the respective ministries and departments. Today, as I stand here and I see the team ICS, I am filled with sense of pride for the accomplishments of each one of you and collectively by the organization. And I shall be failing in my responsibility if I do not mention the support, overwhelming support, and the guidance provided by Department of Expenditure, Ministry of Finance, and that inspiring leadership of Honorable Finance Minister, without which we couldn't have succeeded in our endeavors. I am reminded of Swami Vivekananda's inspiring message, Uttistaha Jagrita Prapya Varani Buddhat. Arise, awake, and stop not until the goal is achieved. So let's all work together with a renewed zeal and commitment to achieve the highest standards of professional excellence. Before I conclude, I would like to say that I see tremendous bright prospects and unlimited potential, a limitless potential about the future possibilities of PFMS, our team service, and the entire civil accounts organization. हिंदी में मुझे कुछ पंक्तियां याद आ रही हैं, तो इसी स्पिरिट में मैं अंत करूंगा कि अंधकार से जाकर कह दो, अंधकार से जाकर कह दो रथ सूरज का निकल पड़ा है, अंधकार से जाकर कह दो रथ सूरज का निकल पड़ा है, उनके पैरों में मिट्टी है, मस्तक उसका अग्नि जड़ा है, घोड़े दौड़ रहे रथ के, नमन कर रहे कंकड़ पथ के, धूल समर्पित होती जाए, दूर क्षितिज से दिशा बुलाए, हाथ जोड़कर लक्ष्य खड़ा है, रथ सूरज का निकल पड़ा है। धन्यवाद, जय हिंद।
सादर धन्यवाद महोदय। वर्ष 1976 पहली बार सिविल लेखा विभाग अस्तित्व में आया और भारत सरकार के महालेखा नियंत्रण का दायित्व सीजीए ऑफिस ने संभाला। साथ ही इस विभाग ने संभाली वित्तीय प्रबंधन प्रणाली की बागडोर, जिसमें बजट अनुमान, सरकार व्यापी लेखांकन, भुगतान सुविधाएं आदि शामिल हैं। फिर आया एक गेम चेंजर पीएफएमएस, जिसने सरकारी निधि को सीधा लाभार्थी के खाते तक पहुंचाया। आइए अब हमारी प्रभावी, विश्वसनीय और जवाबदेह कार्यप्रणाली एवं उपलब्धियों को एक शॉर्ट फिल्म के माध्यम से समझते हैं।
कोशपूर्वाः सर्वारंभः. Without proper fund management, no development is possible. India's growth story is built on the dreams and aspirations of its people. CGA organization came into being in 1976 by a historical reform, since the organization itself was born out of a major reform. Carrying forward the spirit, the service never lagged behind by constantly trying to usher in reforms by leveraging technology. From payment to accounting, it has evolved to the highest level of professional standards, both in accuracy, timelines, and reliability. This has elevated India's standing from red to amber in the IMF Data Gap Initiative. Controller General of Accounts as head of Indian Civil Accounts Organization prepares statements of financial position along with analysis of receipts, expenditure, deficit, debt and financial liabilities to the Parliament through 570 pay and account offices in 55 ministries and over 10,000 officials spread across the country. Now the entire payment system is digitalized with payments directly credited to the accounts of the agencies, stakeholders and beneficiaries. ICAO has various roles including budgeting, payments, accounting, exchequer control, internal audit and the facilitation of timely pension payments to more than 12 lakh pensioners with web-based interface as well as pension facilitation cells. Further, CPAO has effectively resolved hundreds of pension grievances on the spot during pension adalats. PFMS is a web-based IT platform developed and implemented by the CGA riding on the strength of a state-of-the-art data center under the overall supervision of the Department of Expenditure. The Honorable Finance Minister has been a guiding force behind the transformative reforms through PFMS. In her message conveyed on the 48th Civil Accounts Day, she had stated that PFMS facilitates a real-time, reliable and meaningful MIS and also promotes a more transparent, accountable and people-centric governance as envisioned by our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. PFMS is facilitating payments and exchequer control, direct benefit transfer, monitoring fund flow mechanisms, accounting of tax and non-tax receipts, fiscal reporting and pension disbursal in secure environment. It facilitates more effective cash management in the Government of India through just-in-time transfer of funds and complete tracking of funds from its release to its credit into the bank account of beneficiaries.
मैंने फसल बीमा करवा रखा है। मेरी फसल खराब होने पर मुझे जो फसल बीमा से जो भी लाभ मिला वो मेरे सीधे अकाउंट में आ गया है।
मेरी वृद्धावस्था पेंशन सीधे मेरे बैंक अकाउंट में आ जाती है। इसके लिए मुझे कहीं आना जाना नहीं पड़ता। इससे अच्छी क्या सुविधा होएगी बताइए।
PFMS handles the entire GOI budget for accounting and 65% of the budget for payment.
At the outset, I would like to congratulate all the Indian Civil Account Service officers on the occasion of the 49th Civil Accounts Day. In the past, the service has implemented successfully the PFMS computerization program and now is embarking on computerization of their annual accounts of the government. This is a major initiative which will ensure greater transparency and better governance in framing of government accounts.
PFMS handles direct benefit transfer of cash benefits directly to beneficiaries, savings of about 3.4 lakh crores, SNA and CNA modules for better use of funds and monitoring of unspent balances, just-in-time release to eliminate idle parking of funds through Treasury single account and SNA Sparsh, and end-to-end digitization of payments through e-bills.
A landmark decision was taken by Government of India on December 14 when it was decided to digitize and integrate all the core functions of Office of CGA on the platform of PFMS and also the mandatory use of PFMS for DBT. It's indeed a matter of immense pride and satisfaction to the service for having delivered successfully the mandate entrusted by the government by ensuring just-in-time release of funds and better cash management. India can compete with most of the advanced countries for having developed such a state-of-the-art IT system, and no wonder, with PFMS being the technological platform for DBT, it has been rightly termed as logistical marvel by the IMF. PFMS has therefore silently but effectively transformed the financial administration of Government of India.
The numbers speak for themselves, but impact of digitization goes beyond numbers. By empowering citizens with DBT, it has strengthened the internal audit in over 13,000 auditee units of all the civil ministries. The findings of internal audit provide crucial insights into government-funded schemes executed by different agencies and also improves the internal control system. The Institute of Government Accounts and Finance is a central training institute of the Civil Accounts Organization, accredited with the Ati Uttam certification by Capacity Building Commission, which imparts training to the officers and staff, as well as curated iTech courses for international participants. Under Mission Karma Yogi, INGAF, through in-house expertise, published 10 new courses on iGOT portal relating to niche areas of government accounts, FRPM, and entire budget life cycle. As India dreams of becoming a Viksit Bharat by 2047, ICAO's vision is clear: end-to-end digitization for secure and efficient public financial management, leveraging cutting-edge technologies for data-driven decision-making, and ensuring inclusive financial access for every citizen. As India strides towards a brighter future, the organization remains steadfast, ready to contribute to the nation's ongoing progress.
Thank you. A huge round of applause, please. Vincent van Gogh has said, "Great things are not done by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together." It is this series of transformative initiatives undertaken by our service over the last 49 years that have culminated into a journey marked by continuous innovation and transformation. The mention of the glorious journey of this service is, however, incomplete without mentioning the indelible imprint of the Public Financial Management System, or PFMS as it is widely known. It would not be hyperbole to state that since its inception, PFMS has revolutionized government payment and accounting processes and strengthened PFM through its various modules and MIS reports. It is with great pride that we today present a booklet depicting journey of PFMS since 2014-15 over what can be aptly termed a transformative decade. I request our chief guest, the Honorable Finance Minister, to kindly release this booklet chronicling the evolution of PFMS and the vision for its future.
आप सभी का सादर धन्यवाद। शतेषु जायते शूरः सहस्रेषु च पंडितः वक्ता 10 सहस्रेषु दाता भवति वानवा। भावार्थ, शूरवीर सैकड़ों में, विद्वान हजारों में, जबकि वक्ता 10,000 तो क्या लाखों में एक होता है। ऐसे ही विद्वान वक्ता हमारे समक्ष अपने वक्तव्य के साथ प्रस्तुत होंगे। मैं परम आदरणीय डॉक्टर मनोज गोविल, सचिव, व्यय विभाग, भारत सरकार को मंच पर सादर आमंत्रित करती हूँ।
Honorable Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, Controller General of Accounts Shri S.S. Dubey ji, respected secretaries and other senior officers of the government, members of the Indian Civil Account Service and the retired officers thereof, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to the Indian Civil Accounts Organization on this 49th Civil Accounts Day. I extend my felicitations to the Controller General of Accounts and all the officers and staff of the Indian Civil Accounts Service for effectively and efficiently discharging their responsibilities in the service of nation. This organization is relatively a new service. However, it has made substantial impact in a short period of time. In the past few decades, it has set new benchmarks and has played an important role in transforming the nation's financial management, especially of the union government. Our constitution and the laws made thereunder have placed significant emphasis on the preparation of accounts and the timely fiscal audit for the states and the union governments. Several constitutional provisions refer to the financial accountability of the executive to the parliament and the management in fiscal matters of the affairs of the union and states. Post-independence, the primary focus of governance has been on public welfare, and our accounting and financial systems also reflect these priorities. In 1976, as we are aware, a major institutional reform was taken to separate the preparation of accounts from the statutory audit, and thus this Indian Civil Account Service came into existence. And since then, it has, as I said, played an important role. Now, we all are aware that timely payments are a cornerstone of financial stability and efficiency. This fosters trust in the government processes, and also contributes to the smooth functioning of the economy, both the private and the public sectors. Effective monitoring of the payment system is also important, as it plays a crucial role in preventing delays, optimizing cash flow, and maintaining accountability. And this organization has played a pivotal role in ensuring this. With PFMS, we can ensure that the pendency of bills, whether it be with the pay and account officers or their staff, or with the drawing and disbursing officers, that can be monitored. And if we see that there is undue pendency at any level, we can ask those officers for an explanation. We can make sure that there is no undue pendency. In this regard, I would also like to congratulate the Controller General of Accounts for ensuring timely submission of the annual financial statements for the Union Government for the year 2023-24 to the Parliament. This was done in the same year, and there is a lot of process involved, and it was well that we could do it and present it to the Parliament in the same calendar year. We hope to further reduce the timelines in future. And in this regard, I would like to also inform that we are also undertaken automation of annual accounts. That work is going on, and we hope that this will ensure that the financial information is promptly available for analysis. It will lead to informed decision making and accelerate the preparation of projects and taking decisions thereon. It will also reduce human errors. In fact, very interestingly, this time when the accounts were being finalized and we were about to sign on these reports, we found that at certain places small chits have been placed because there were some difficulties in the numbers. and small chits were placed to replace those numbers. So we hope that with this automation, there would be no need to edit the accounts in this manner by putting a small slip, and the accounts which come in from the system itself will be accurate. Over the last few years, under the overall guidance and support of the Honorable Finance Minister, we have worked diligently to update the rules, especially the Receipt and Payment Rules 2022 has been recently released, and the Civil Accounts Manual has also been released in 2024. We have tried to ensure that these are aligned with the modern electronic systems and they have been adapted to the current needs. These rules, it is important to emphasize here, also provide guidance to the state government's accounting departments. Many of the state governments do not have full-fledged accounting departments. They do not have that kind of a capability. So whatever we produce as the accounting manuals and rules and procedures, many state governments also adopt those. In fact, we are also discussing with the Office of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India the issues related to the harmonization of the union and the state accounting codes and practices. In fact, some time back, the CAG held a conference with the state finance secretaries, and we also participated. Similarly, we also need to harmonize the accounts of rural and urban local bodies. The Finance Commission is also looking into this aspect, and all of this will help us in making reliable accounts for the general government. Many international organizations do ask us about the accounts for general governments. Right now, the state governments and central governments, their accounts are not fully matched, and there is a difference in various accounting codes as well as the accounting numbers. So this will help us do that over the next couple of years, I hope. Overall, in the last 49 years, the CGA has made significant investment in automation and training, which has led to improvements in the functioning of payment and accounting system for the union government. But as I said, we need to do more about the harmonization with the state governments. PFMS, we have seen a short film on the PFMS, which has also helped timely release of funds by the ministries to the beneficiaries, as well as by the ministries to other organizations, including central government organizations, as well as state government organizations. The PFMS has leveraged technology, and it has incorporated various innovations like the Treasury Single Account TSA, the Single Nodal Account SNA, and recently we have also started SNA Sparsh. These advancements have become the backbone of the union government's public financial management, and this has helped us in various ways, including reduction in the idle parking of funds and minimization of float. It has also led us to have effective cash management. We don't need to, as a government, borrow that much from the banks and keep a large amount of money with us. A lot of money which was otherwise parked in the banks is now with the RBI in central government own account. This also helped the state governments because their float with the banks has also reduced. In fact, in this year's budget documents, we included a statement that showed monies available with the states in various centrally sponsored schemes. And the Honorable Finance Minister, while replying to the debate in the Parliament, quoted from this statement to demonstrate that sufficient funds have been made available by the union government to the state governments in various schemes. Now, we are also working towards a second version of PFMS, that is PFMS 2.0, to further improve the capabilities and efficiencies of the PFMS. The SNA Sparsh initiative was launched as a pilot in 2023-24. This has now been extended to 30 schemes and 22 states. We also had an incentive scheme for CAPEX in which we promoted various states and gave incentives for them to adopt this SNA Sparsh initiative. And e-bill has also been rolled out for 509 pay and account officers out of 563. In the coming year, we will also have a number of other schemes which will move to the SNA Sparsh mode. which will help the state governments as well. So over the decades of the 49 years of dedication and hard work have led the organization to its current position, and I'm confident that the organization and the members will rise to the challenges of the future, they will rise to the occasion and deliver on the government's expectation. I wish the service and all officers and staff a bright future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We look forward to your continuous guidance, and we assure you of our unwavering commitment to meet all the goals that you outlined for us. The Indian Civil Accounts Service is privileged to have the Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, as a patron, always encouraging and inspiring us to progress ahead. Not only has her visionary leadership contributed to India's economic landscape, but her guidance has been truly transformative for our service. We eagerly look forward to listening to your valuable insights, Madam, and without further ado, I most respectfully invite Honorable Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman to kindly deliver the inaugural address.
Good afternoon, Secretary Expenditure Manoj Govil, CGA Mr. Dubey, whilst a lot of what I wanted to say for the benefit of record has already been covered by the Expenditure Secretary and the CGA himself, getting into a lot of specific details which are worth repeating any number of times, particularly when you enter your Golden Jubilee year. I wouldn't go into every detail of what I wish to say, but there are certain things, even at the cost of repeating. I see the presence of the media here, which is only right that they should be here to celebrate the 50 years of a very silent, performing, low profile, but high achieving department. In fact, I'll begin my address by appealing to the media that as much interest you take in anticipating and expecting and also writing about the fiscal deficit or about the Monetary Policy Committee's meetings in the RBI, you should actually take in a lot of interest in the silent revolution that this service is providing this country. Because not now, not at the time of Arthashastra, or not just for the future. There is one duty which no government can escape. The better you perform, the better it is for the country. And that duty is to be transparent and be efficient in managing government funds. And that can never be overstated. And it is that in which a lot more awareness in the public mind is necessary. And therefore, very quickly to give a bird's eye view of the service and also the department, departmentalization was aimed at 76, so that every department has its own financial advisors and accounts are kept, and as and when it is necessary to get a picture, the department has the advantage, and therefore having them departmentalized was aimed as one of the important things, and it has served its purpose well, no doubt. If that marked the first milepost, completing 50 years will mark the next milepost. But no, you're completing the 50th year with such a landing on the south pole of the moon, equivalent that is, by the way in which since 2014, digitalization has happened. Departmentalization digitalization. Remarkable achievement. And so it is just not, all right, one of the government department which has done well and which is there forever and which is going to serve the people of this country, marking 25th year, 50th year, 75th year. No. This 50th year, each one of you all should be served the best, choicest ice cream you want, because it is that kind of a celebratory milepost that you've reached. Not just 50 years, but what kind of work in the last particular 10 years through the digitalization. So if the larger principle that the country has to be better managed, monies have to be responsibly handled and judiciously spent for optimal benefit for the taxpayers, every rupee, it happens here. So you continue to successfully shoulder the payment and accounting duties of the government, which I think has seen a remarkable change. And today we can stand up and say, as much as efficiently managing inflation, as much as efficiently coming up with the, very important schemes for the poor, the needy, the middle class, and so on, also to keep your country lean and well managed in terms of debt management is not going to be by preaching to people who need the money. Yes, they need the money. By telling them, why do you want to have so much given to you, or by telling them use less of borrowed money, it's not just going to work. But if you're able to in time give them the money, efficiently track how that money gets spent, and therefore reduce your advance estimates about how much you need to borrow. And when you reduce borrowing, overall the country benefits. When you say to an ordinary citizen, it may not fly as much as you would say, I've given you an income tax rebate. But this is how I think the narrative has to go to the common public, that your money, when paid as tax to us, is much better managed today because of efficient use of technology. And that is where the digitalization attempts are bearing results. Now, much has been said about the details of PFMS. I do not want to again go into some of the specifics, but there are, I think, 7 or 8 specific objectives which this serves us, and therefore on that, again, for the appreciation of the media, I would want to say this. The goals, one of them, reaching out to the last mile. The PFMS actually serves us well because 60 crore beneficiaries, and that is the largest in the world of IT-based platforms, which serves in transfer and payments. So it benefits how many people? Over 60 crore beneficiaries. The next goal, direct delivery. PFMS manages over 1,200 central and state schemes. I'm continuously looking at the side where I can see my media friends. Not so much all of you all who are performing this job. So 1,200 central and state schemes, of which 1,100 are DBT schemes. So off the cuff, when citizens are receiving their pensions or any other elements that they should get, whether it is for the gas cylinder that they buy, everything is going via direct payment. So there are no middlemen, no unborn children getting allowances. Everybody who receives has a biometric verified account into which the money goes. So 1,100 of the 1,200 central and state schemes are under DBT. The third objective which gets served is end-to-end digitalization. PFMS integrates 250 or over 250 external systems such as the GEM portal, the GSTN, Tax Information Network, the TIN 2.0, PM Kisan, and many more such. So 250 external systems are integrated and it serves end to end. So that is how digitalization has spread itself for effectiveness. Naturally, the next goal gets served, which is supports cooperative federalism. Now, again, when we talk about PFMS integrating systems, what better example can there be of cooperative federalism if only we recognize all 31 state treasuries and 40 lakh or over 40 lakh program implementing agencies. I'll repeat that. All 31 state treasuries and over 40 lakh program implementing agencies enabling unified financial management across states. Look at the dimension. Just look at the dimension of this. A country with over 140 billion population, a country which is the largest democracy, but yet has provincially elected governments. All their systems are integrated and managed by our friends here. So what does this goal serve us for? It's not just bringing the financial management across the states on board to one platform, standardizes reporting mechanisms. So it's not as if one agency is giving one reportage, which is very different from somebody else. Everything is now formatted well, and you're getting it. Why is it important? This reportage is on the taxpayers' money, how it was sent, how it was received, how it is getting spent, who are the beneficiaries. If there is a unified way and a uniform way in which information is spreading, is it not good for transparency? Improved fund tracking and enhanced fiscal coordination. So the next objective, network of networks. So it interfaces, the PFMS interfaces with over 650 financial institutions. Which are those? Both public and private sector banks, National Payments Corporation of India, the NPCI, and the Reserve Bank of India. All are interfaced into this. So network of network is managed by our friends here. Scaling up the volume of transactions. In India now, for the last 1 or 1.5 years, we have always had this, exciting data which comes when we say, how much has been achieved in digital payment interface? How many, QR code payments? How many NPCI other payments? And that runs into billions. And we've got used to saying nowadays, not millions anymore, billions. And we are at ease with it. Now, therefore, what does this PFMS number look like? The volume of transactions has increased exponentially from 2 crore plus in 2014 to 250 plus crores in 2024. And 1 crore transactions on a, will my media friends guess? 1 crore transactions on a daily basis. And one other, but for my purpose, the last of the objective which is getting served. The PFMS continues to adopt best-in-class technology solutions. Now, you wouldn't have heard of, someday collapse, someday half of material available, someday the website not working, someday some state says, no, you're claiming that you sent me this much through the PFMS, I didn't get it. You've never had it. That is because best-in-class technology solutions, adopting object and storage area networks, Elasticsearch, and Blade servers are all in here. You're looking at a civil accounts set of people here. But what are they managing? High-end technology. So, continuing further, you have your TSA, you have the SNA, all that has been explained. But just again, get into the numbers of what's quietly happening. What has it actually given us? The TSA, which is the system in autonomous bodies, right? And the SNA and the CNA are systems introduced for just-in-time release to the states. So the TSA alone, which means the public autonomous bodies alone, have saved more than 15,000 crores in interest cost. And since the inception, that is 2017-18, since 2017-18 till today, the TSA alone has helped us save more than 15,000 crores in interest cost alone. Which means, I can put it this way, if I were to tax something else more and earn that much money, it would have cost pain on the taxpayer. No pain on the taxpayer, but by efficient use, the TSA has helped you save that much on interest alone. So single nodal account, how much has that saved us? It has saved more than 11,000 plus crores since 21-22. Since 21-22, 11,000 crores has been saved by the single nodal agency. Unspent balance parked in more than 15 lakh bank accounts of implementing agencies was consolidated into 4,500 bank accounts. 15 lakh bank accounts have been consolidated into 4,500 bank accounts, better to monitor. So it brings in greater transparency and so on. Just-in-time fund release has helped us to make sure that we don't borrow much more than what we need. Burden on future generations, because I know a lot of people who talk to me often, both within the country and outside, ask us nowadays about debt to GDP. You borrowed so much during COVID, are you going to reduce it? What about the states? Who are going to talk to them? And so on. But we've already shown that one concrete measure through which we know if we manage just-in-time release, I don't need to borrow and keep borrowing just to get them parked somewhere. So that advantage the PFMS has given us. Now, in the name of schemes, I need to mention this, although the 99% of the audience here know it all, I want to say it here. Telangana's Raitu Bandhu scheme, it has supported that scheme. The PFMS has supported the Telangana Raitu Bandhu scheme, which is a Kisan helping scheme, by streamlining direct financial assistance to the farmers. So if PM Kisan Samman Nidhi is directly sending money to the accounts of the farmers in Telangana, the enabling technology is provided by the PFMS. During Kerala's flood relief efforts, the PFMS was the technological support given by our people here, which ensured swift and transparent disbursement of aid. It helped Telangana, it continues to help Telangana, it is helping Kerala. In Maharashtra, scholarship distribution system leveraged PFMS for timely and accurate payments to students. And across Punjab, Bihar, Haryana, Gujarat, and Jharkhand, pension schemes for the old age is enabled using PFMS. So, what is that big thing which a central government can do to facilitate in the name of cooperative federalism? You can devolve taxpayers' money, you can do many things about schemes and so on, but this is a silent technological revolution in which states are finding a lot more ease of operation, ease of getting their government business done by adopting the PFMS and the technology, and the silent pioneers are in this room for you. From the point of view of, again, the public, it will be, all right, how many people? Hardly about 1,000 people doing it, 20,000 people doing it. Every person is important, and I was happy to hear the CG mentioning about the 76 posts, absolutely necessary for the service to handle its responsibilities, and I'm very happy to have cleared that. Also, the mission recruitment, which has been launched, the organization has offered appointments, jobs and jobs everywhere. People talk about government jobs. This one department has offered appointments to nearly 1,900 Group C staff across the country. And there are several other things that I can say, but this is recognized by the IMF, as was mentioned by you earlier. The compliance with the IMF's special data dissemination standards is something which has quietly brought in greater international credibility of financial reporting, which is absolutely important because you don't want to be like a banana republic. You don't know what comes, what gets spent, and who's keeper of the books. Everything is available, transparent, online for people to see, and therefore, when the reporting happens, it gets international recognition. I'm also happy to note, which was also mentioned earlier, during the current 24-25, you have resolved more than 17,000 grievances of pensioners, and you have participated in so many pension adalats and pensioners outreach programs, which is a public service. Very good. There is just a lot more to do for a growing country, a country which has aspirations very high. And without setting too much expectation for a team which is performing and continuously performing to improve its own standards, I had suggested in the July 24 budget that for improving data governance collection, processing and management of data and statistics, different sectoral database, including those established under the Digital India mission, will be utilized with active use of technology tools. So the CGA has the potential to work in this regard, given that PFMS is a huge data set in itself. So that is something which I think holds promise for you and holds promise for the country when you handle it and be able to deliver on it. So I would also like you to examine, in consultation with the CAG, whether it would be possible to make the annual accounts more approachable and user-friendly, and allows citizens to analyze easily and generate customizable and simpler reports. Now that there's so much of integration of so many different digital portals, getting so many states on board, there can be a lot more of research which can be carried out based on the data set that you have. So if you're able to make the report a lot more user-friendly, that itself can generate a lot of interest in the work that you do. Although it is recognized, I would still place it on the table for you to consider. Both the Department of Expenditure and the CGA should ensure that the SNA Sparsh rollout itself is smoothly facilitated for all the applicable schemes in the upcoming financial year. CGA should handhold states in seamless onboarding and transition from whichever they have to the SNA Sparsh, and convince them about the benefits of this reform and quick adaptation. Marking 50th year, celebrations are due, is fine. But I think there's more engagement with the states which is required. So as I was seated next to the CGA, I did suggest to him that in the guise of your celebration of the 50th year, across the country, you should engage with your counterparts in the states to speak more about what you're offering and also take their inputs. But that could be one of the very good ways in which you build relationship with the states so that you can smoothen out any doubts in their minds and encourage them to adopt the systems. I'm sure all states have seen the benefit already, but it might just help you to have a conversation with them, and 50th year celebration is just the right time for it. So I would think, look at about 6 different destinations, look at south, west, east, north, center, and the northeast, and engage with governments in those blocks so that you can in those regions, blocks is a awful word to use in this context, but in those regions and talk with them. Also, I think there should be a lot more public awareness so that people appreciate that their taxpayers' money is taken so very seriously. Every rupee is taken seriously, and therefore some public engagements to make people understand that this is the most critical job for the finances of the country, not just for the government of India. And it is this seriousness with which you're handling it and how technology has come of use. It might help to engage with the public as well, knowledgeable public, academia, observers of the Indian economy, and so on. And the last point that I would say is when we talk with countries, when we have our bilateral engagements with them, a lot of interest is shown on the DPI, the digital payment interface that we've created in this country. There are so many countries, not just the global south, much to all our surprise, even developed countries say, oh, your payment system, because you've delivered it at population scale, gives us a lot of idea. And from the India payment portal and the digital stack, some elements are interesting for some countries, some are interested in the entire stack, and so on. So there is a lot of engagement to see how best we can share our expertise in this with them. No less is this achievement of the PFMS, no less than the DPI. And I'm sure there are countries which will immensely benefit by your experience and by your delivery. You should share it with countries. You should engage with countries to say, we have this, we have developed this greater transparency, which IMF has recognized in public accounts and public finance management. We'd like to share it with you. And I'm sure a lot of countries will be interested and see how best they can integrate or retrofit what you've done into their own country's systems. So on this happy occasion, wish you very many more 50 years, and thank you for the great service that you're doing for this country. Jai Hind.
Thank you, madam. Words fail to express our gratitude for your words of encouragement today, madam. And your message today is something we will cherish for a long time to come, and it will continue to illuminate our path forward. As a token of our gratitude, I request you to kindly accept a memento marking the 49th Civil Accounts Day. I request the Controller General of Accounts to please do the honors. On behalf of the service and the organization, I also request our esteemed guest, Secretary Expenditure, Dr. Manoj Govil, to kindly accept this souvenir. I once again request the Controller General of Accounts to please present Sir with the memento.
हरि अनंत हरि कथा अनंता, कही सुनही बहुविधि सब संता। भाव, सिविल लेखा विभाग की अतुल्य कीर्ति और आज के यशस्वी वक्ताओं का मत निश्चित ही अविस्मरणीय रहा है। जबकि आज की मुख्य अतिथि महोदया माननीय वित्त मंत्री के वक्तव्य ने मेरे मानस पटल पर अंकित NEP 2020 के आदर्श वाक्य को चरितार्थ कर दिया, जिसका मंतव्य है, शिक्षित करो, प्रबुद्ध करो, प्रोत्साहित करो। शिक्षित करो, प्रबुद्ध करो, प्रोत्साहित करो। मैडम, हम कर्मयोगी आपसे प्राप्त सीखों से अपना जीवन दर्शन निश्चित रूप से ही संवारेंगे और सच्चे और बेहतर लोक सेवक बनेंगे। इन्हीं भावों के साथ आप सबके प्रति धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करने के लिए मैं आदरणीय संजीव श्रीवास्तव सर, अपर महालेखा नियंत्रक को मंच पर आमंत्रित करती हूं।
Honorable Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, Secretary Expenditure Dr. Manoj Govil, Controller General of Accounts Shri S.S. Dubey, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of the Indian Civil Accounts Organization, I am honored to propose the vote of thanks. First and foremost, I express my sincere gratitude to the Honorable Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji. Your leadership, guidance, and constant encouragement has been a source of inspiration for all of us. Your support has motivated and strengthened the Indian Civil Accounts Organization in more than one way. We are also deeply grateful to Dr. Manoj Govil, Secretary Expenditure, for his insightful direction and unwavering support. Your guidance has been invaluable, and we are truly thankful for your continued help in organizing the 49th Civil Accounts Day. Our heartfelt thanks goes to Shri S.S. Dubey, the CGA, for leading us with such dedication. Your leadership, vision, and enthusiasm have set a remarkable benchmark for the organization. You are truly the biggest cheerleader for the service, and your active involvement in our efforts has been instrumental in achieving our goals. We also extend our gratitude to the Department of Expenditure, Ministry of Finance, for their constant support, not just for the 49th Civil Accounts Day, but in all our endeavors. We are fortunate to have such valuable assistance at every step. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our retired colleagues, especially the former CGAs, for their contributions in building and shaping the organization. Your presence here today is a reminder of the foundation upon which we continue to build. We are deeply thankful for your continued involvement, sir. Our sincere thanks also to all distinguished guests who have joined us today, and to our colleagues from the Office of CAG, RBI, state governments, various banks, and other government departments. We highly value your cooperation and look forward for continuing our collaboration. I would also like to express my gratitude to the committee appointed by the Office of CGA, as well as the officers and staff members who meticulously planned and organized the 49th Civil Accounts Day. Your effort and hard work have made this event possible, and we deeply appreciate it. I am grateful to the media for their coverage and attention to this event, and to the staff of the Vigyan Bhavan for their hospitality and support in organizing this gathering. Last but certainly not the least, I would like to thank all members of the Indian Civil Accounts Organization. Your dedication, commitment, and tireless work ensures that we continue to make great strides towards enhancing service delivery and fulfilling our organizational goals. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for your presence and for making 49 Civil Accounts Day a great success.
Thank you, sir. I once again express our sincerest gratitude to our chief guest and the dignitaries on the dais. I request everyone to please see off our chief guest, Madam Finance Minister, with a resounding applause, please. I now invite you all to high tea. I request the liaison officers to please escort the retired CGAs and the secretaries to the VIP lounge. I request all our other guests to please join us at the atrium. Thank you.
About to begin with our next session, so I kindly request you all to please be seated.
I request all the guests to please take their seats. We're about to begin with the second session, which is the keynote address. The keynote address is being delivered by Dr. Arvind Panagaria, and our keynote speaker has arrived, so I request everyone to please take their seats.
I think people settling in.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, sir. People are settling in, sir.
क्योंकि अब वो नहीं सेक्रेटरी नहीं है तो किसी और साथ लेकिन आज से वो दोनों को बता दिया
नाम डाला हुआ है, सर. You will now be sitting on the right.
ड्राफ्ट दे देते वो तो क्या करूँगा वो तो मेंशन किया है
सर, आप एक्सटेम्पोर इतना बोल देते.
अरे नहीं ऐसा कोई नहीं दे देते मुझे ना पॉइंट
Good afternoon. We will now be beginning with the second session for today's event. I request all the guests to please take their seats. All the guests sitting at the back are requested to move towards the front, please, as there are vacant seats there.
बिकॉज ना ये अंदर भी नहीं आ रहा है ना. चलो मैं बोलती हूँ इनसे.
Good afternoon. We now begin with the second session for today's event, the Keynote Address. It is our privilege today to have Dr. Arvind Panagaria delivering the Keynote Address. And since Sir has arrived, I request everyone to please take their seats as we're beginning with the session. I request everyone to please take their seats as our keynote speaker has arrived. I once again request all our guests to please take their seats. I also request you to please put your mobile phones on silent. Please give a huge round of applause to our keynote speaker, Dr. Arvind Panagaria. I welcome you all back post the inaugural session where we heard the inspiring and motivating words of the Honorable Finance Minister, who appreciated and encouraged the initiatives that this service has undertaken over the last 49 years. And she also exhorted all of us to forge ahead towards newer horizons in the times to come. We now have the good fortune of listening to another stalwart, Dr. Arvind Panagaria.
विद्वत्वं च नृपत्वं च न एव तुल्ये कदाचन स्वदेशे पूज्यते राजा विद्वान सर्वत्र पूज्यते। भावार्थ, विद्वान अतुलनीय है। राजा को तो केवल अपने राज्य ही में सम्मान मिलता है, किंतु विद्वान की ख्याति उन्हें हर जगह सम्मान दिलाती है। आज हमारे मध्य ऐसे ही ख्याति प्राप्त विद्वान उपस्थित हैं, जिनके लिए माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने भी कहा था, इन्होंने चुपचाप ही बहुत चमत्कारी काम किए हैं। जी, मैं बात कर रही हूँ डॉक्टर अरविंद पनगड़िया की। अब मैं श्री रशीक एमपी, भारतीय सिविल लेखा सेवा 2023 बैच के अधिकारी से सर का स्वागत व अभिनंदन करने की अपील करती हूँ। धन्यवाद। Today's keynote speaker, Dr. Arvind Panagaria, is the chairperson of the 16th Finance Commission. Dr. Panagaria is Professor of Economics and the Jagdish Bhagwati Professor of Indian Political Economy at Columbia University. He has served as the first Vice Chairperson of Niti Aayog, Government of India. Professor Panagaria is also a former Chief Economist at Asian Development Bank and has worked with the World Bank, IMF, and UNCTAD. In addition to this, Sir has authored or edited 20 books and numerous scientific papers. In 2012, the Government of India honored Professor Panagaria with Padma Bhushan, the third highest civilian honor of our country. Let me also remind the audience here that Sir has kindly agreed to take some questions after his address. This is indeed a rare opportunity for all of us to interact with such an influential authority in the field of economics and finance. I now welcome you, Sir, for your keynote address on the theme, India in the Global Economy, the Next Decade.
The Comptroller General of Accounts, Mr. Dubey, Mr. Sanjeev Srivastav, distinguished guests. It is a great privilege and a matter of pleasure for me to be speaking today on the subject of Indian economy. in the next 10 years in the global context. But before I turn to the subject of the day, let me just say that I should congratulate Mr. Dubey and, of course, all the staff from his office for the incredible system they have built, the PFMS. I have often complained, that in the public kind of perception and in the public space, we often hear about the UPI system, its different layers, and even when some of the layers are still in progress, actually, we hear a lot about these things. What we don't hear is that the very power of the UPI system in a major way comes from the PFMS system. And I first sort of became aware of this very important fact when, after leaving Niti Aayog, I had to write a paper on digitalization in India. And then I systematically began thinking about it. And the way I thought of this whole, the way I conceptualized the various components of digitalization was in terms of, the different entities that exist in an economy. So you got the government, you got the households, and you got the businesses. Those are the three kind of big entities in a very broad brush classification. And these entities have to transact within themselves. So the government has to transact, one arm of the government has to transact with another arm of the government. Likewise, one arm of the business has to, so B2B, B2C, C2C, all sorts of these transactions happen. Virtually, particularly in a developing country, the government, virtually everybody has to deal with the government. And so the government really has to have a system through which these interactions, the transactions can happen. That is exactly where the PFMS becomes very, very important. I also realized actually that I had some bit of role to play at one point in this whole digitalization process because I was at the Niti Aayog at the time, very early on in 2015. At one point, actually, the Aadhaar was going to be handed over to the Home Ministry. And if that were the case, of course, that would have meant that in issuing the Aadhaar cards, perhaps the citizenship issue might come in, and the expansion of the system would then become hostage to that. And at that point, sort of, I went to the then Finance Minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley, and all, and in the end, it didn't happen, and Aadhaar really remained outside of the Home Ministry. And so that is what ultimately led to the major expansion of Aadhaar cards, and it got, the whole saturation process could be brought to its logical conclusion very rapidly. And that, in the end, of course, thinking back, what PFMS does for that Aadhaar is incredibly important. The fact that 10 crore people can receive funds just on one click, about which I wrote in this article that I ultimately completed, it happens on the back of the PFMS system. It is really the power of the PFMS system. And just as, we have been, this is what Mr. Dubey was telling us just now, that just as we think of now the UPI system as something which ought to be a part of our diplomacy, our international relationships, etc., perhaps PFMS too. So I think it has a great future. And also, as we are visiting different states now, and we talk to the local bodies, and also I explore possibilities, with them, that PFMS ultimately has to be also connected to the local bodies directly both rural local bodies as well as the urban local bodies, and that really will complete the entire system because money ultimately also has to flow down to the local bodies. And at some point, you know, if one can really do it directly rather than having to go through the states, that is something, you know, in the long run at least is something that's desirable. So that is my thoughts on PFMS. And now let me speak briefly about the subject that I had chosen for myself. Mr. Dubey wanted me to speak on that whole digital system, about which I know something, but I'm really not an expert, so I urged him to let me speak on something that I can speak a bit more authoritatively. And so that is the subject I picked. So now, you know, what happens, one notices that anytime, you know, anything that is not positive, any negative news that comes in, it really suddenly, you know, even if it's a quarterly figure of the GDP or a half-yearly figure or even monthly figure, if you could have that, and it's a low figure, very quickly we begin to, you know, extrapolate that, oh, suddenly the economy is in trouble. That, you know, this whole talk about the $10 trillion economy or the talk about Viksit Bharat by 2047, etc., is all in some sort of danger. And to the extent that, you know, negative news generally in our own minds also sticks more than the positive news. I think this is just human tendency, you know, that our brain kind of works like Velcro to the bad news and like Teflon for good news. So good news tends not to stick, but bad news tends to stick. So, you know, we saw these, you know, data growth estimates coming in initially for first quarter of the 24-25, and then the second quarter, and they were tepid compared with the past. I mean, these were still significantly higher than the growth rates in any other large economy in the world, but nevertheless, compared to our own growth rate, you know, which had been for the whole previous year 8.2%, suddenly anything that was 6% or below 6% looked very bad news. And so the pessimism suddenly kind of took over. Of course, yesterday, new figures data came, and sure enough, we got some very good news. You know, for the year 21-22, our growth rate got revised, sorry, for 22-23, it got revised from 7% to 7.6%. For 23-24, it got revised from 8.2 to 9.2%. And for the 24-25, it's 6.5, so it's still a little lower on the lower side. We're still waiting, of course, fourth quarter figures still are not there, so we'll see where it goes. Nevertheless, so it's an improvement on the numbers, quite significant. You know, COVID was 2021, and after that, 23-24 still puts out a growth rate of something like 9.2% is quite phenomenal. I don't think any other country, any other economy is doing that. So that is my context, actually, and I'm, you know, by nature an optimist, certainly an optimist, very much optimistic on India. So I want to explore this theme, you know, what can we expect in the next 10 years, and why is it credible? And even then, I'll speculate a little further as well on 2047, whether that is an achievable goal. Credibly, meaning that whether that is something that's achievable or not. So first of all, you know, for anything like this, when we are talking next 10 years or next even 24 years, right, when you talk 2047, we're talking practically of next 23 or 24 years, we have to see the long-term performance of the economy. You can't go by, you know, what is happening just now or what happened in the last 4 years or even 5 years. One has to take a much longer term view. So I take the data for the Indian economy from 2003 onwards. 2003 I take, 3-4 year I take, because that is the year during which the really high growth trajectory became entrenched, it started there and then it began to become entrenched. So 2003-4 was our first time we grew about 7.9%. And then on we sustained good bit of that, and it's still sustaining. Now, when we talk of the $10 trillion or we talk of the Viksit Bharat, what we have to talk about is ultimately in dollar terms. And so what I do is to translate the growth, the GDP figures themselves actually into dollars. And then we can do it both in terms of constant dollars or current dollars. And I want to give you some figures there. So if I take the years 2003-4 to 2023-24, so this is a 21-year period. Now this is a 21-year period during which I can say that we went through about 3 crises of different magnitudes. The first one was the 2008 global financial crisis. Second one was, around 2017 to 2020, I would say, our domestic financial markets crisis, when all the NPA, the NPAs that had been accumulated over several years, principally driven by the decisions made under the previous government, ultimately led to the collapse of the credit growth in 2017, which eventually also spilled over into this non-bank finance companies, NBFC crisis and all. So that was our second crisis. And the third one, of course, was COVID. So this is a 21-year period which experienced a lot of shocks, a lot of shocks which turned economic shocks also. The global financial crisis, the domestic financial crisis, so to say, for the lack of better term, and then the COVID crisis. In spite of all that, if I take this full 21-year period and do my calculations in dollars, in current dollars, the Indian economy has grown at 10.1% per year over this 21-year period. Now, if I want to get to the real growth rate in dollars, I have to use the GDP deflator. And here, since we are talking in terms of dollars, I have to use the GDP deflator of the United States. What is the real value of the dollar? Right? So the GDP deflator of the United States during this period, 21 years, is about roughly 2.3. And so if you take the 10.1% growth rate in real dollars, in current dollars, use the GDP deflator of 3.7, that gets you back a growth rate in real dollars of 7.8%. So when we do the growth rate only in rupees, you understate the growth rate. If you were to do this, you will probably get something for this 21-year period, something a little below 7% in real rupees. But what happens is that when a developing country grows, because it starts out with a low per capita income, over time its relative prices, meaning its price levels relative to the advanced economies, rise. And that leads to an appreciation in real terms of the domestic currency. So the rupee vis-a-vis the dollar has appreciated something more than 1% or so per year during this period, which accounts for the growth rate in real dollars being 7.8%. So we have actually sustained a very high growth rate, particularly when we do the calculations in terms of real dollars. And that is my kind of reason for optimism. And if I were to actually now, be ambitious and be bold, let's say, and project this forward. So if I were to project this growth rate, use that growth rate of 10.1%. By the way, actually, the growth rate is even higher if I cut the date to 2019-20. So if I take a shorter period, 17 years from 2003-4 to 2019-20, then in current dollars, growth rate is about 11%. In real dollars, it's about 9%. So if I take out the COVID crisis and post-COVID years, then growth rate was even higher. So I'm being conservative when I say that let's take the entire 21-year period, take the growth rate of that period, which is about, in current dollars, 10.1%. Now let's say that suppose we maintain that 10.1% growth rate over the next 10 years. That actually gets us to something about, if you do the compound growth rate to the current, the present GDP numbers, you get to about 9.5 trillion. So in about 10 years, you get to close to about $10 trillion. This is 2033, 34. So in this sense, I see that there is certainly a path which is feasible, right? Now, whether it's plausible or not, I will come back to argue. Why is it not? Why is this not only feasible but plausible? I'll come to that. But feasibility is simply that, look, this is something we have done for 21 years, in spite of the 3 crises that I mentioned. And so certainly it is feasible for India to grow in current dollars at 10.1%. And if you do that, then in 10 years' time, you're practically there for $10 trillion. I'll also come in a minute to the Viksit Bharat ambition of the Prime Minister. But let me, at the moment, just say that why this is a plausible scenario, why this growth can be sustained over the next several years. There are a number of factors. First of all, India is a stable democracy. I think that's very important. And there's full law and order, etc., governance, because for a lot of the countries, we don't realize countries don't have proper law and order, don't have proper governance, which is a precondition for growth. But India certainly satisfies that precondition. So that's my first point. Second point is that, look, today our per capita income, if I take the 2023-24 figure, is about $2,570 per capita income in India in dollar terms. In 23-24, $2,570 is what it is. Now, compared to any of the other countries, such as South Korea, Taiwan, China, United States, European countries, this is a very low per capita income. What that means, of course, that India has the advantage that, look, today, per worker or per capita, we are producing only $2,570 worth of output. Whereas in many other countries, that figure is somewhere 12,000, somewhere 15,000, somewhere 25,000, somewhere even 30,000, 40,000. What that tells me is that certainly it is feasible, given the existing technology, with reasonable capital accumulation and skill acquisition, to actually push the income that far, even with the existing technologies. You don't need any new technological changes or anything. Existing technologies allow you per person to produce $10,000, $15,000, $30,000 per capita. So certainly this is called catch-up by the economists, that India, because of its current low per capita income, has enormous room for catch-up, and that catch-up gives it the opportunity to grow significantly faster than the countries like the United States or Europe, where the per capita incomes are already high. They are already on the frontier of the technology, of the current technology usage. And what that means is that only if technology itself, the technological frontier itself moves out, can those countries increase their per capita incomes through productivity gains. For us, having productivity gains is a lot easier because technologies already exist. Machines that allow you to get to that technology already exist, and skills that are allowed also exist. So with the acquisition of more capital and skills, it is certainly doable for us. That's the second point. Third point, of course, is the demography. And there are two aspects of India's demography. We conceptually sort of mix up these two aspects, but they need to be separated out. One is the size of the population itself. So there are two aspects. One is the size, and the other is the age composition. And I'm going to take each of these in succession. So first of all, the size of the population. Why is that important? what size buys you is that it reduces per capita the cost of the provision of public goods. So, when you build a road, whether you build the road for 100 people or 1,000 people, cost is the same. But if you got more people using the road per capita, your cost of provision of the road actually declines. It becomes much less. That argument actually applies very powerfully, even with even much greater force to the digital infrastructure. Once again, the argument that the more people use the digital infrastructure, the cost will roughly still be the same of building that digital infrastructure. So per capita cost of the provision of the digital infrastructure declines with the larger population. So whether you are building, the UPI or PFMS in India versus if you are in a smaller country, Bangladesh or what have you, the cost differences are going to be not very large. There will be some differences, but not very large, not proportionately. On per capita basis, that gives India a much lower cost of provision of the digital infrastructure. In the digital infrastructure, actually, there is another economy, another cost advantage that arises, which is also how many people are interacting on that digital infrastructure, right? So if you have the UPI and there are only 100 other people with whom you can transact, then your benefit from transacting on the UPI is not so great. But when you got, 1,000 and actually crores of people with which you can interact, with which the system can interact, the businesses can interact, ultimately once you build up the second and third layers of this digital infrastructure as well, your benefits to having that digital infrastructure for each individual rise also. So there is this size advantage in the provision of public goods. That's one. The second is, of course, the demographic profile, which is the fact that India is a very young country. And that advantage is still going to stay with us for a while, in the next 10 to 20 years for sure. And what that, of course, means is that when you got younger population, there are more workers per 1,000 population. And this younger population also does savings, because the older population usually lives on the past savings, so it is doing this saving, whereas the younger population saves for the future, and so a larger proportion of younger population also translates in a higher savings rate. And that, of course, means also the ability to accumulate capital. So that also, therefore, for both the reasons, larger population as well as larger capital stock gives you the ability to grow more rapidly. And the last, of course, is the fact that India has really now gradually gone on to improve its governance system. Lot of economic reforms that had to be done have been done. Some more need to be done, which will have to be done as we go forward. But I think by and large, we are not living in the economy the way it existed in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and 80s. It's a very different economy. It's a competitive economy. It's largely open economy. No doubt there are some more reforms required, but I think they are likely to happen. And therefore, I feel that we are very well positioned, therefore, to sustain the 10.1% growth in current dollars that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so that, I think, is my set of arguments for why this will be sustained. Now I want to get one last point here and then conclude, which is that what does it say about the Viksit Bharat ambition of India? That, of course, begs the question, what is the definition of Viksit Bharat? And the generally agreed definition, or the only one that we actually have, is the threshold for the high income status of a country that is provided by the World Bank. So the World Bank uses this classification of countries into low income, middle income, high income, and then middle income get divided into lower middle, upper middle income, etc. So the threshold that the World Bank provides us is in the 2023 dollars, $14,005. That per capita income, so we'll just say for round figures, $14,000 is the threshold in 2023 dollars that we must cross to have the classification as a high income country, which I would translate back or interpret back to be the developed country status of the country. So the question we ask here is that from where we stand today, what are our prospects of getting to an income of $14,000 in 2023 prices or in 2023 dollars? Okay, so let's do the calculation, what it means. So today our per capita income in dollars in 2023 dollars is about $2,570. So we can do a calculation back that to get to $14,000 in 24 years, because this figure is 23-24 figure, we have 24 years before we get to 47-48, which is the terminal year we are talking about. So there's 24 years, right? So if I want to get from 2,570 to $14,000 in 2047-48, what growth rate do I need for per capita income? And this is per capita income, this is not the GDP. It's not GDP, it's a per capita. So if I do that calculation back using compound growth rate, etc., the growth rate that comes out of it is that I should achieve is 7.3%, meaning my per capita income from 2023-24 onward has to grow annually at 7.3%. Is it feasible for me? Well, remember that I told you that in the last 21 years, GDP in constant dollars has grown at 7.8%. I said, 10.1 is in current dollars, 2.3 is the GDP deflator of the United States. That brings us in real dollars at 7.8. So that gives us our growth rate for the last 21 years at 7.8%. Per capita income growth that we need is 7.3%, but population will be growing also. We have reached our TFR, the total fertility rate has actually fallen now below the replacement level. But still, there is a gap between the birth rates and the death rates, and therefore population will still grow. According to the United Nations Population Division, population between now and 2050 is projected to grow 0.6% a year. I think it's an overestimate. It will probably end up being 0.3, 0.4, something of that order. But let's say 0.6. So if if population is growing 0.6%, I need per capita income to grow at 7.3. That means my GDP has to grow at 7.9%, adding the 0.6% population growth to the per capita income growth rate of 7.3%. That gives me 7.9. Well, last 21 years, we have grown at least 7.8%. And actually, as I said, if I leave out the COVID years, we have grown 9%. So 7.8% for the full 21 years, 9% for the 17 years up to 2019-20. To get from 7.8 to 7.9 is certainly entirely feasible. And so therefore, I conclude that certainly, if we do the right things in the years to come, our prospects getting to the Viksit Bharat ambition of the Prime Minister is very much a realizable dream and realizable ambition. So I'll stop there. If there is time for any questions that you would like to do, I'm very happy to take those questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for such an illuminating lecture encapsulating the journey of Viksit Bharat and the path ahead in the next decade. With your permission, sir, we now open the floor for questions.
The mic system, I think so that is audible. Yes.
So the mic is just coming to you, sir.
Just 1 second, the mic is coming, yes.
I request everyone asking questions to please also introduce themselves.
Hello. Thank you, sir. I am Sanjay Singh, Principal Chief Control of Accounts, CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes. Thank you for your enlightening lecture. I just want to ask one question, with permission, that you have basically described that how we have moved from 2003-04 to now, as far as the GDP growth is concerned, and in fact per capita income also. I just wanted to know, can you just also throw some light that how the equitable distribution of the wealth has moved from 2003-4 to now? That how the stratification has moved, whether it has moved positively and how much it has moved. And secondly, also the current volatility which has been introduced by US tariff structures, kind of mentioning policy structures which they are talking about. How do you foresee this is going to influence India in next 3-4 years? Thank you, sir.
Yes. Okay. What about you? Or maybe.
Thank you. All right. So first here on equity, I'll first tell you how I see this this issue. I mean, there are a lot of issues within the equity issue. If my choices are to grow rapidly and also then at least at the bottom 30-40% bring everybody up, largely everybody up, versus everybody staying poor, I'll take the first one. And on that score, we have done very well. Certainly, we have carried with us the bottom 30-40% of the population. If you look at, no matter how you measure poverty, during this period, poverty has declined massively. And as a group, you can take any group. I've done this analysis myself, but others have done as well. You can take scheduled castes, you can take scheduled tribes, you can take Hindus, you can take Muslims, you can take whatever group you want to define. At the group level, poverty has actually significantly, very dramatically declined in every group. That doesn't mean that everyone within that group has benefited. There may be people, but the sample surveys will let you measure only the group averages. So that's the first, Now, equity per se is a very complicated issue because there are so many different measures of equity that you tell me, I can, for any population, I can give you a particular equity measure which would have gotten worse. When you grow rapidly, for example, urban regions will grow more rapidly than the rural regions. So there is not a country you can tell me where growth happened at 7-8% or more and urban-rural inequality did not go up. It does. If you measure inequality by top 5% to bottom 20%, you cannot give me a single example where this kind of equity did not get worse. You cannot grow rapidly and not produce billionaires. You will do that. So that then gets us to a very different question. But if you want to measure, as economists like to measure, by this Gini coefficient, then inequality has really not risen. In fact, if we look at 22, 23, and 23, 24 surveys, if anything, Gini coefficient has fallen. I personally don't put much value to Gini coefficient because nobody knows what the hell is the Gini coefficient in the first place. And no individual, as they relate to the rest of the population, thinks in terms of the Gini coefficient. It is something very popular with the economists. We love to kind of, because we can calculate that. And so, and we can get the intellectuals very excited about it. But, you go to a villager or you go to anybody individual, who is not an expert and who doesn't even know what the Gini coefficient is, try telling them that, oh, are you worried about Gini coefficient going up? Nobody really gets bothered by that. I think inequality, to me, sociologically, where it hits you is in your immediate social context. So, if your colleagues are getting salary increases which are higher than your own, that really gets you. But if Mukesh Ambani makes another $1 billion, I don't think you lose your sleep. We can all talk about it, that kitne billionaire ho gaye. But none of us loses sleep over that, really. What we lose sleep over is that, if Mr. Dubey's salary rises more than mine, they get very exercised. So that's my sort of answer to the first question. You had one on the reciprocal tariffs, right? You're referring to, that's what you're referring to, right? What the United States has. So here I personally think that, we have a very good opportunity to do a win-win bargain. Look, I'm a trade economist really. If you ask me what is my specialization, I may do all development, but trade is my core kind of specialization. I have written plenty, on why free trade is good for the developing countries. It's for everybody, but why it is also good for the developing countries. And our own experience testifies to that. I mean, we experimented with this very closed economy model for almost 50 years. And we did very poorly. Outcomes were really bad. The big changes that have happened in our lifetime in the last 25, 30 years are all after we liberalized. So our own experience has been excellent. So our own liberalization I see as something good. It makes us more competitive, it forces us to become more efficient. And in that process, if we have to do a reciprocal tariff bargain, we can also get better access to the US market by, at least US tariffs are generally low, but at least in some products that are of interest to us, things like textiles and clothing, their tariffs are, maybe about 15% or so, or somewhere there. We can get better market access. So we can really turn it into a win-win situation. And I've been actually writing about liberalizing our own trade anyway, even outside the context of the reciprocal tariff threat. Now that, that threat has come in, it's a doubly beneficial, that we also, in the process, hold the United States to reciprocal tariff reductions as well, and get access for our goods that we export to them. So I see that as a positive. I mean, we can turn it into a positive. If it ends up in a kind of tariff war in which the US hits us with tariffs and we hit back US with tariffs, that outcome will be kind of unfortunate. That will not be to the advantage of either side.
Sir, I am Rajesh Kumar. I am Director General of Institute of Government Accounts and Finance. I have two interrelated questions, sir. One is that as you talk about growth, which particular field you feel the growth will actually happen, whether in the manufacturing sector or in the service sector? Because we hear a lot of discussion going around that. And the second thing is either sector, both will grow. Which will grow faster, I don't know in India, where India can excel. But are we prepared for it? Because both the growth in both the sectors will need skilled people with new and developing technologies, which changes overnight these days. So are we prepared? Is our education system, doing the needful, or we need to do something more here? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Both very good questions. First of all, I don't like to take sides manufacturing or services. Both, we have strengths in both. Both should do well. So you need to. As an economist, I actually firmly believe in policies, and I won't pick any specific industries. So I'm not an infant industry economist. I think we should think in terms of good policies and let the entrepreneurs decide what is profitable to produce. Choice of what is to be manufactured has to be that of the entrepreneurs because they are taking the risk. So that's on which one. As a general observation, I would say we do need manufacturing very much. And particularly, I have argued for a long time that we need labor-intensive manufacturing, particularly. I think our mindset got set from the 1950s when Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru went for very heavy industries, steel, machinery, chemicals, fertilizer, etc., etc. That did not serve the country well because bulk of the population was completely excluded from the development process. They were all sitting either in agriculture or in these very tiny little enterprises. At that time we used to call it cottage industry, household industry, village industry. Those were the kind of words we used. And that I don't think was very helpful. And that bias towards heavy industry and still continued. And incidentally, this is something that we don't realize. We really love to celebrate the 1991. We think that we really did away with all the licensing, etc. But we actually did away licensing in 1991 only on the heavy industry. Because the light industry was all sitting on the small scale industries reservation. I mean, even prior to 1991, you could get a license at least for this heavy industry, you know, steel, whatever else you wanted to do. You could at least apply for a license, get it. But for the light industry, there was no license given. You had to be in these very small scale enterprises. So that liberalization did not happen till 2005. You see, so and as a result, and then we have not still done the labor laws, which require reform as well. So I do think that we do need to carry out the necessary reforms which will facilitate the emergence of the labor intensive industry on a larger scale, so that we can create good jobs for the masses. You see, there are good jobs certainly for the very highly skilled. We have those, IT industry, pharmaceutical industry, machinery industry. These are all, you know, for engineers, for talented engineers, etc. You got the jobs. But when it comes to the masses, I think, you know, there is a jobs issue. So that I think is very important. On skills, I believe, again, you know, my personal belief is that the true skill, I mean, you can prepare the population for for acquiring the skills, but actual acquisition of the skills happens on the job. I mean, I'm sure even in your own surveys, you would agree that no matter how talented all of you come in, it takes a year or two of on-the-job work to understand, to really get what I will call the skills of operating within the governmental system. And that's true for journalists, and that's true for economists, for teachers, for anybody. So, which is where I come back to, you know, we need to create the jobs. Only when people will work on the job, the good skills will be created. Now, implicitly you said, do we need to do something about education, etc.? I think we need to. I think our education system, particularly the higher education system, is in dire need of reform. We are operating under the 1956 University Grants Commission Act. That is antiquated. At least in the medical education, we were able to change it. This was a reform actually I take credit for. The Indian Medical Council Act was replaced by the National Medical Commission Act. And that has been a very good reform. And as a result, we are seeing massive expansion of medical education now. In higher education, I think by and large it's not an expansion issue. On that front, we are doing okay even under the UGC Act, but the quality issue remains, and a lot of the reform there is required.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm here, sir. I'm Sophia Dhaya. I am Chief Controller of Accounts in Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. So my question relates to your role as Chairman FC and something that you referred to at the start of your talk regarding harmonization of accounts of Government of India and the state and the local bodies. In Mahua, sir, we are working on the urban local bodies portion. Now, for Government of India, it is very clear why we would want to do that, because we can get accounts at one platform, we can have data at one click at a granular level, and that will obviously feed into the decision support system. But the ULBs or the local bodies, for them it doesn't matter, and they really don't come on board very easily. So how do we incentivize the local bodies to come on the common platform and use a common chart of accounts, so to say? Thank you, sir.
I'm afraid on that one we can discuss afterwards, but as the FC chairman, I really shouldn't comment on that. I recognize the issue, and some progress previous commissions have tried to make in that direction. I think 15th has made some progress there.
Yes, sir. There is a recommendation.
And hopefully we'll try to make some more progress. So it's a recognized problem, but beyond that I won't say anything.
Thank you, sir.
Please use a mic, please. Yeah.
The Office of the CGA has submitted a report on the harmonization of the urban local bodies with the chart of accounts. There is a report already available, which probably we just need to take it forward. We had representatives from the office of the CAG also for the report, and it's already been submitted and it is available with the government. Thank you, sir. I'm TCA Kalyani. I'm Principal Chief Controller of Accounts, MHA.
Good afternoon,
that report is being examined, and we are working closely with Ministry of Urban Development, and we are seeking the guidance of Chairman Finance Commission as well, how to go about integrating all the 3 tiers of the governance. Yes, I think.
Can I just?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Astha Katwani. I'm additional CGA PFMS. From the perspective of PFMS, sir, digitalization, in your opinion, what role can it play in the growth chart of the country?
But you already know, I mean, it's, how the accounts were done 10 years ago and how they're done today.
Yes, sir, but what would be your advice?
Really, if you see the data that are there in the booklet that has been released, actually, in fact, I'm carrying it in my pocket here. So let me just read out, which I'm sure you've seen, right? So the platform itself, right, what did it have? It had 14 lakh agencies on board 2014. Today, you have 40 lakh. You had 175 crore transactions on PFMS in 14. You now are doing 45 lakh crore. You had about 1,500 schemes in 14. You now have about 17,229. So, I mean, I'm just rereading what you have seen. So I mean, obviously, this is due to digitalization. The kind of efficiency you are achieving is just phenomenal. To me, I mean, as a user, I thought that this whole thing where for the first time when the Prime Minister actually did one click and the 6,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees to about 10 crore people could be in one click actually transferred to the accounts of the beneficiaries. I think that's a miracle of digitalization. So, I mean, look, for the economists, it's very difficult to measure the gains that accrue in productivity. At the macro level, studies that are being done, this productivity gain is a little tough to capture on the macro level. Measurement is a challenge. But as users, certainly in our own lives, the kinds of improvements that have happened because of digitalization of PFMS is one part of it, but a lot of others, is just phenomenal. I mean, remember the lines, queues in which you have to go and stand to pay your water bill, your electricity bill, your, none of that now you need to do.
So it's very heartening to know from your speech that the growth numbers are there with us, which will help us align with the global economy. So Tripti Ghosh here. I'm joint CGA in the office of the CGA. And it's very heartening to know that growth numbers are with us. But sir, with alignment with the global economy, it has its own challenges. There are, as we know, downturns and all the challenges. So how do you think, what are the steps India should be taking so that this journey is smoother? And adding to that, since you told you are working in trade, so do you think the time is ripe for capital account convertibility for India?
Capital account convertibility. So, on the second part of the question, on capital account convertibility, I am more conservative on this, and I would rather go slow on that one. So, I would still not suggest that we do that. I think, we have managed the exchange rate, and by and large, I think that has served us well. If I look at our history from 91 on till today, that exchange rate management has been generally a positive contributor. Because remember that, if you adopt full capital account convertibility, then effectively the exchange rate management is out of your hands. You cannot intervene then. So I would still wait for quite a while actually for per capita incomes to rise to at least $8,000 to $10,000. I will wait on that one. Now, on the challenges from the global economy, there is no doubt that the global trading system particularly is not what it used to be. WTO itself is under very huge stress. Today, there is no appellate body that is functioning, which is absolutely essential. I mean, it's like, having a system of laws where there is no Supreme Court. So you have no court of appeals left. That is what we are, that is the world we are in right now. Now, so there are stresses in the system. Having said that, one thing I really see is that nevertheless, somehow, and perhaps it is because, one of the very wise trade economists who died a few years ago, Robert Baldwin, he always used to say that, the markets are always porous, and no matter how much you try to control them, determined exporters find ways to export. And that's a more general argument, of course, that the determined entrepreneurs find ways around a system. I mean, that's how our own entrepreneurs, still worked around the kind of license permit Raj and all that. So the numbers that I see are the following, that remember that, after 2018-19, you had the Trump tariffs first term. He also had this retaliatory tariff war with China. US imposed tariffs on China, China imposed tariffs on the US. After that, we had the Ukraine-Russia war, as a result of which a lot of sanctions were imposed on Russia. So a lot of this disruption has happened during these years. But if I look at the trade numbers, talking about determined exporters, the pre-COVID peak for merchandise exports globally was about 19 trillion. And for services, it was 6 trillion. Post-COVID peak, 25 trillion in merchandise exports, 7 trillion in services exports. So you've got a massively large market still, and which has continued to grow. Our problem is not that there is not enough there is not enough market available out there. Our problem is that our own share in that market is tiny. India's share in the merchandise export market is less than 2%, in services less than 4%. China in merchandise exports is something like 12 to 13%. That is where I think, so which is why I take the view that, our issues are more of internal policies. We need to do a bit more, push our reforms a bit more, and that I think will carry us through. At least I still don't see that that the global marketplace challenge is big enough to contain my optimism as yet. Now, things can, if you end up in a situation of a war or something, a war which engulfs many different countries, etc., that's a very different scenario. But if the world remains peaceful, in spite of these challenges that have come, and more of them may come, I think still with our own good policies, we can forge our way out of it.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Aditya Bamne, officer trainee of 2024 batch. Sir, thank you for your insights regarding per capita income. Sir, my question is regarding debt to GDP ratio and increase the state borrowings. Sir, recently there has been trend of handouts, loan waivers by state governments. So is there possibility of defaulting by state governments, and how are we going to manage, balance welfare schemes and fiscal state of the Republic?
So I generally would avoid, commenting on issues of that nature, because it does involve a little bit of the FC work. But broadly in our system, on your default issue, in our system really state defaults really don't happen, because ultimately constitutionally the macroeconomic stability is assigned to the central government. and it is within that kind of power, there are provisions within the constitution which also allow the central government to put some sort of limit on the borrowing by the states, right? Nobody puts any limit on borrowing by the central government. That is an endogenous outcome because the central government carries on its shoulders the responsibility of the national macroeconomic stability. So it is burdened by that, and therefore it has to regulate itself in terms of containing its own fiscal deficits, etc. As far as the state governments are concerned, the central government decides the limit on how much they can borrow. And so that is the instrument really that you basically use. But beyond that, I will not say anything more.
If there's any question, otherwise then I think we can wrap it up. I know that, yes, okay, fine. So just one last question, or maybe okay, fine.
Sir, I'm Subodh Mathur, retired additional CGA. My question is on the investment rates. You said there are two things which are a bit of a challenge these days. One is the savings rates are going down, the private investment is going down. You said the savings rate will be taken care of by the demographic dividend over a period of time. What can be done for improving the private sector investments?
Good. So, first of all, the private investment, once again, there is a lot, this whole thing I talked about, this negativity, right? The discourse, the way it proceeds. If consumption looks like tepid, the consumer demand has collapsed. If investment is tepid, investment is not happening. But remember, out of the GDP, there is the government, there is the investment, there is the consumption. If one goes up, the other will go down. But I share the view that this whole for the long-term growth, consumption is not the driver. Consumption is an outcome. It's not the driver. But because of our electronic media waves are so dominated by the economists who sit at all these, JP Morgans and Goldman Sachs, etc. So they think in the short-term model. So they always is about consumption. And also, by the way, in the public perception, any particular component of consumption or fast-moving consumer goods are no demand. But of course, there is a whole host of different products, and sometimes or two-wheelers are not selling. Well, I've got to look at the full consumption demand. Just looking at one particular component and trying to generate this fear among the people, is just not right. But this private consumption has been in the news persistently. Nobody bothers to look at the figures. Go back, look at the MOSPI figures. What is the proportion of fixed capital, what is it called, fixed capital formation? Every time MOSPI puts out the GDP data, it also gives you that figure. Now, pre-COVID, soon after COVID, actually, it had been declining. 1920 was a bad year, and so this proportion share of the total capital investment in the GDP had been declining, and fallen to something close to about 28% post-COVID. Latest figures you are seeing, it's about 34%. I am, on the data that were released yesterday, I haven't checked this particular figure. I've checked some of the other things, but at least prior to this one that came, it was still holding on at about 34%. Now from 28%, you've gone to 34%. This is not all, it is true that the government itself has been raising its capital investment. CapEx has been rising, but government CapEx is very small. Government CapEx is, central government is about 3% or little over 3 maybe. So from 2% it goes to 3. But that doesn't account for the 6% increase that happened from 28 to 26, 28 to 34. Well, that's largely private investment. So it's possible that some particular area, if you take automobiles, maybe investment has not happened as much, or it has not happened in some particular sector. But when I look at the aggregate figure, how is that 34%? Where is that 34% investment coming from? Somebody is doing it. So that I think is a bit overstated. Your point on savings is a good one. That there I think there has been financial savings of the households have really, I mean, at one point, if data are to be believed, was quite high, and then it has fallen. That's something a bit of worrisome, that what is going on with that. But savings data generally have a bit of a problem in terms of, quality, etc. But if I go by the data, this is a little bit of a concern that financial savings of the households have fallen, and the level is more or less at a level where almost all of them get absorbed by the fiscal deficit of this center and the states. And that crowds out private investment. So there is that link back to the private investment once you recognize the decline in the financial savings as a proportion of GDP and the fiscal deficits of the state and of the center and the states. So that's something to watch. But I'll just leave it at that.
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
I think, last question. Okay, this is the last question, because then I know that it is very difficult actually to hold on. When sir is here, obviously I can understand your curiosity, but the last question, right?
Yes.
And then I think we can close, yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, I am Abhijay Pagare. I am from batch of 2023. Sir, I have a question regarding the fall of Indian rupees and the FPIs pulling out, and at the same time, the currency exchange rate with rupees depreciating. At the same time, we are seeing that RBI is using the forex and managing the rate. So how do you think is this sustainable, given that we have only hardly $600 billion of forex? And what is the way forward if this has to be a sustainable rate? Yeah. So that's the question, sir.
So I'll not comment on anything current. That's not right for me. I hold a position. But more broadly, I would say, what the RBI has done over a long period is to not resist any long-term movements in the rupee, because you cannot do that. If the rupee is going to depreciate to some level, and you are going to hold it, let's say rupee is going to depreciate to 85. I am trying to be hypothetical on purpose. So suppose today it's 80, and its long-term tendency is to go to 85. And if RBI is going to resist it, it will exhaust all its foreign exchange reserves and not be able to still sustain it at 80. So RBI doesn't try to do that. Any long-term movements that are to happen in the rupee dollar exchange rate are allowed to happen. What it tries to smooth out are the short-term fluctuations in the exchange rate in the day-to-day, or even it could be monthly or so. That is all it tries to do, and that it has done reasonably successfully. Because mind you, that long-term movement in the rupee-dollar exchange rate has been permitted, meaning has happened. If you look at, when we start 91, rupee-dollar was about 17, 18 rupees to a dollar. By 2002, it had gone to about 46 rupees to a dollar. Today, it's about 85, 86 rupees to a dollar. So the long-term movements very wisely have been allowed, and short-term fluctuations have been, smoothed out. And that, I think, broadly speaking, has been a very sensible policy.
I thank Professor Pangaria for a truly captivating and thought-provoking session, which has given us a nuanced perspective on Indian economical landscape. Thank you so much, sir. As we conclude this session, I would now request Honorable Sanjeev Srivastav, sir, Additional CGA, to kindly present a small token of our gratitude and respect to our esteemed guest. It is worth repeating that it is truly an honor to have such a luminary in our midst. We have indeed learned a lot from sir today, and there's so much that we can take forward with us. Thank you so much, sir. I now request Honorable CGA Sir to kindly propose a vote of thanks for the session and bring the session to a rightful closure.
Thank you, sir, for giving such a illuminating and such a fascinating talk on India in the global economy next decade. It's always a privilege and honor, sir, I think, to listen to you. We all have been reading your books. I remember, I think that was one of the most important books that which you wrote, which I believe, I think you authored 20 books, sir. So आपके बारे में sir, कि मैं कहूँ कि being an academic giant, strategic thinker, policy maker, trade economist, तो अगर हिंदी में कहूँ तो सूरज को दीपक दिखाने के बराबर है सर. तो I think it's been such an honor to have you here. I think I see a lot of economists sitting here. You would have read the book, India, the Emerging Giant. I think it was released in 2008, and it is treated as a definitive book to study the Indian economy. And then the other book, Why Growth Matters, with Jagdish Bhagwati. This is something which is called a manifesto for the policy makers. And I've had the privilege of attending the last book which sir had written on Nehru era, sir. Thank you very much, sir. It's been my privilege and honor reading your books. And we all sitting here, I think, have read your books. And you've been a great supporter of PFMS, sir. You've been writing on digitalization. And I've had the personal privilege of seeking your guidance. Now that in the capacity of 16th Finance Commission, I have been interacting with sir. We had a good presentation before him. So sir obviously knows what journey we have had, particularly the last 10 years. In the morning session, sir, we have released this compendium. And this could serve to be a very good compendium about the journey, the glorious journey PFMS had. And now, sir, we're in the process of formulating the PFMS 2 version. So I think we will certainly seek your guidance to see to it that what we can do. Because PFMS 1 has nearly accomplished the overall objective of just-in-time release of funds, contributing to the cash management. And we talked about fiscal deficit. This has certainly helped. And the last module which we have rolled out, SNS Push, is helping both the state government, central government to manage the borrowings. And this has certainly contributed to overall cash management, sir. And you have so simply told us the blueprint to how then the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of Viksit Bharat is going to be realized by achieving a 7.3% growth rate to achieve the figure of 14,000 per capita income to dollars. So I think, sir, this has been a very illuminating talk, and I'm very thankful to you, sir, that you took your valuable time to be with us at us, and we'll be working very closely with you, sir. I think we already made a presentation on PFMS, and we're looking forward to your very useful recommendations, which I think, as we talked about, PFMS can be a good instrument for integrating all the 3 tiers of governance to arrive at a unified government accounts picture. So thank you very much, sir, for sparing your valuable time. It's been always a privilege and honor listening to you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Can we please have one last resounding round of applause for our esteemed guests? And with this, we bring today's keynote session to a close. Thank you, everyone. I now invite everyone for lunch. The dignitaries on the dais, secretaries, and the retired CJAs are requested to kindly proceed towards the VIP lounge, while the rest of the audience is requested to proceed towards the atrium for lunch. Thank you.